Generally speaking, I have been a bit let down by the first 6 months of movies in the year 2021. I still stand by my statement that 2020 is a pretty underrated movie year that had a certain unique charm to it. However, I would be lying if I were to say that I wasn't disappointed by all the postponements last year, and also all the schedule changes definitely increased my excitement and the general potential for this year's slate of films. I understand that the majority of the big time players aren't coming in until the second half of the year, but still, I can only say that maybe one or maybe two films this year so far has surpassed the expectation that I had going into it, and a lot more than that have fallen well below the expectations that I had, which probably isn't the best of things. Nevertheless, some pretty good movies have come out so far in 2021, and since we are officially over halfway through the year, it's time for me to reveal what my top 10 movies of the year so far are, in my opinion. Before that, however, I have seen 31 2021 US theatrical or mass streaming releases so far, and these are my bottom 16 movies of the year. For more clarity, I will go ahead and highlight in red the 4 movies I think are genuinely pure garbage. In orange are the 4 films that have some merit to them, but by most calculations are underwhelming or just very flawed, if not both. And finally, in yellow are the 8 films that are somewhere between okay and kinda good. These are just movies or documentaries that I, or for the most part anybody, would enjoy watching in the moment, but overall the story, the cinematography, something about the movie just didn't stick with me from that point on. Now, with all that said, let's get into the next section. My 5 honorable mentions in order are at 15, F9, a movie that I've seen hated on a lot and quite frankly, understandably hated on, but it's a movie that I personally enjoyed a lot. It gave me exactly what I expected, and while the movie definitely could have been a bit better on virtually any cinematic level, I just had too much fun to care about all the stupid shit happening in the background. At 14, I have Luca, which is a whimsical little film which Pixar released just a short time ago. To be frank, I was disappointed by Luca throughout the first half of the film and wanted more out of the movie, but the second half redeemed it enough to get it this high up on my list. I am not as high on the film as most are, but I appreciate the low stakes of the film and its ability to capture a sense of innocence and fun that very few Pixar movies have even attempted to tackle. It's one of the lesser Pixar films in my opinion, but even then, it's fairly good. At 13, I have Shiva Baby, and to hear my extended thoughts on this debut feature, in addition to some of my friends' thoughts up there in the IR2 podcast on this movie. At 12, I have Bad Trip, which in my opinion is the best pure comedy to come out so far this year. There are definitely plenty of grotesque jokes that I found to be a bit excessive at times, but then again, what do you expect from Eric Andre? And on the flip side, the humor was more clever than I expected at times, just overall a mixed bag that came out more good than bad by the end. Finally, at number 11 is Wish Dragon, which is, well, pretty unoriginal, predictable, and a very poorly marketed film that has no right to be as good as it is, but nonetheless, it is written and executed well enough to produce a very good time and a justifiable ripoff of Aladdin. This is the one movie that I think surpassed my expectations, but that's because I thought this movie was going to be pure garbage going in, and clearly it wasn't. Now let's go ahead and get into the main portion of the list, number 10. I have already talked about Nomadland in my Oscar video, so go check that out if you want my thoughts on this film and hint, a few more movies coming forward. Overall, I still appreciate all the technical levels of this film. I truly think you could fool somebody who doesn't know who Frances McDormand is into thinking that this is a documentary, and that is a bit of a feat on a cinematic level. However, that fact does kind of take away from the film's story at times. I found it powerful and it's very important in the contemporary times, but I don't necessarily feel the urge to ever watch this again, and I doubt I'm gonna watch it again anytime soon, and by soon I mean like anytime within the next like 5 years to a decade. I'm happy that we have a place in the current film landscape for movies like this, and well, that's it for now. Go check out that video for even more thoughts. I'm gonna get so much shit for putting Cruella over Nomadland, but I just gotta say I really enjoyed this movie. As I said, I don't see myself rewatching Nomadland anytime soon, but I would like to rewatch Cruella like now. I had a great time with this movie. I found both Emmas to be charming in their individual roles. The story definitely did get convoluted at points, but I felt that the momentum was always pushing forward to the point that I didn't feel bored at any point after the 20-minute mark, which is really a pro for this film. With that said, the movie is a bit longer than it needs to be, and I think that I like this film much more because I was able to watch it as its own thing, because I've never seen 101 Dalmatians or whatever Disney products this is connected to, so any attempts at connecting this movie to previous products flew over my head, and I just enjoyed this as a self-contained product made to entertain for 2 hours, which it did. Steven Soderbergh's return to form, and by form I mean heist movies, is, I think, an ideal product from a film shot in quarantine. It is clear that the production couldn't have too many people in a room all at once, and intriguingly the story and filmmaking uses that to its advantage, presenting a noir-style thriller with Sorkinian situations that is masterfully directed by Soderbergh to enhance all of the previously aforementioned aspects. Simultaneously, however, this style and story leads to the film's downfall in the convolution of what I found to be an unnecessarily difficult plot, but only slightly unnecessarily. I was supposed to be confused, and it was Soderbergh's intent, I think at least, for me to put together all the pieces with the characters, and that's exactly what I was doing, so that's a bit of a two-sided coin. The cast here is obviously stacked, the cinematography is weird, and the story is both genius and kind of lacking, but more the former than the latter, and that earns no sudden move the number 8 spot for now. Nobody is essentially the second cousin of John Wick. I personally prefer the John Wick movies, and I don't think Nobody is better than any of those 3 films. However, I do think it comes close because the film is willing to distinctify itself in a feeling that is weirdly contemporary in just American life in general over the past few decades, and especially as a post-quarantine piece of media, by which I mean the feeling of wanting to get out and simultaneously wanting to return to a sense of normalcy and return to the more fun or advance into a more fitting life that you used to have. Obviously, the action here is very well done, nowhere near John Wick levels, but very good. Saul Goodman is the action anti-villain I didn't know I needed, but above all, I found the grounded and weirdly minimalist story to enhance the movie to the next level, a level right below some of the more high-tier action movies of the past decade, including the trilogy that it has been compared to a lot, but a very competent and enjoyable level nonetheless. This is another one that I talked about in my Oscar video. For now, I'll say that this is another movie that I do not want to rewatch, but I think that actually makes the movie better in my estimation, because my hesitance to return to The Father proves how efficiently and effectively the filmmaking did its job. Before watching this movie, had a true fear of memory loss, and after watching the movie, it just enhanced that fear through the impeccable acting and some of the best editing I have ever seen in a film. If you have not seen The Father yet, I would really recommend checking it out. If you don't like it, you will definitely get something out of this film no matter what. Guess what? I have also talked about A Quiet Place Part 2 in, well, my A Quiet Place Part 2 review. I am plugging so much in this video, but everything I said in that video still holds up in my opinion. However, as I thought about it a bit more, I was torn between my statement that this movie is better than the original, and I think that I still like it more, and it's probably still better than my original, but my confidence in that statement has weighted a bit because part 1 is a much more original and quote-unquote scary movie, and I think that it plays with the horror genre much better than this movie did. On the other hand, I experienced part 2 as more of an action movie, and I think that part 2 executed the action genre much better than the first one did. The horror is still there, but it is now more in the background, and I think that both movies are extremely comparable to each other because of how Krasinski plays off of our expectations, but in different ways. In the first movie through the horror genre, and the second movie more through the action genre with the horror in the background. The first is more original and better executed, and the second is more riveting and enjoyable in my opinion. So I'm gonna stick with my statement that the second is better, but but now it's by an even smaller margin than I thought before. This is still a great film. The other 4 in front of them are just even better. Guess what? This is another one that I've already talked about on my channel multiple times actually, so I'll just say that this is a very good movie with some extremely important themes that covers a powerful story, and if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out.
Are you ready, black people?
Summer of Soul, or When the Revolution Could Not Be Televised, is the film that I went into with the most excitement because, well, I love music, I love documentaries, and the trailer is amazing. And once again, I really just love music. Specifically, I love the music of the mid-20th century. Now, one of the most covered topics in documentaries is, well, the African American struggle, and I was worried that this would feel repetitive or just not unique enough to leave an impact on me. Well, I was very wrong. Documentaries are as good as the situations being documented, and this is a prime example of both the situation being documented being worth the documentation and the filmmaking enhancing and allowing for the documentation to have its own room to breathe. In my opinion, Questlove is already an extremely meticulous, patient, and ingenious director, and I think his skill and his willingness to wait and his willingness to allow for certain scenes to play out really pays off in dividends here. He allows for the music and the performers to truly echo the themes of the film rather than being overt and a bit too on the nose with some of the things that he's going for. The interviewees do not speak for too long, and the narration doesn't take the limelight away from the footage at any point, and the footage is the main point of the film, and for that I felt the full effect of the Harlem Cultural Festival. Any decision made behind the screen felt right. I truly learned a lot through this documentary, and I truly felt immersed. Go check out this film. Minari is a 2021 movie that was released in 2021 in the United States of America, and I watched it in 2021, and I have already talked about it in 2021 in my Oscar video, so go check out that video that I released in 2021 if you didn't get that already, if you want to hear my thoughts on Minari, or you can just follow me on Letterboxd to read my review, which I wrote in 2021. Yes, I am topping my list off with what is officially labeled a comedy special, but what is truly a narrative film that I think will live on to be timeless, and the only film to truly capture what many have felt over the past year and a half, and for some people even longer than that. I think that this movie will prove to be a time capsule while also being a product that can give insight to the state of a society at any given moment. Now I'm gonna stop being pretentious because I do have an entire video dedicated to Bo Burnham Inside, which I have been trying to post for a while now, but YouTube has prevented the video from going officially public, so whenever that is released you can hear more of my thoughts on this ingenious special movie, I don't know, documentary if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. For now though, this is my top 10 of the year so far. This is my top 15 of the year so far, and this is my full list of 2021 movies ranked. Thanks for watching. I will catch y'all in the next video.